lore friendly?
Episode God knows.
Yeah, we're continuing on with the shit show that is 2020.
Whew.
Um,
Whew.
it's been terrible. What a horrible year.
I have had to get myself some vodka to prepare for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
We are opening up
No.
here in England. We're just throwing doors open to bars and restaurants and things like that. Even though we've got the highest death toll in Europe and the highest death per capita in the entirety of the world, I believe.
I believe the headline I read was "Drink yourself into chaos."
Sounds about right.
Whatever happened to attack and dethrone God? I thought that was
the
plan.
Liberals'
What is this?
plan.
Drink yourself into chaos.
I'm disappointed that we're not going ahead with that.
Yeah, I had my pitchfork ready. I was ready to join the front lines. but,
Overthrow God,
I guess we're
dethrone
not
him.
doing that.
I had
Yes,
my
yes.
throne all made up, nice and ready.
Oh, did you? What is on your throne? What is your throne made of? It's not made of swords, is it?
No, be a bit painful in your arse, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No, so my throne is made out of pillows and cushions and delicate frivolities because I want to be comfortable whilst I'm reigning over the human race.
I wonder if that's what God's throne is made of now, because he seems to be sitting on his ass. So. Or she.
I can picture
No, I
that.
mean, because it's been quite terrible. Like, whenever I go on Twitter, I know I'm going to be depressed after I read it. It's just doom scrolling.
Yeah, there is nothing
bad.
good going on in the world as far as I can see. And we're carrying it on.
I mean, we're still carrying on the fight. It's like I said last time, it's a marathon,
sprint.
not a sprint. So still carrying on the fight against systemic racism, Black Lives Matter, trans rights, trans lives matter. Another big thing that came out recently is this whole the games industry is having a reckoning because the whole Me Too stuff is back, and I mean it never went away because this stuff is like systemic. It is.
It's a pandemic.
It is everywhere in the games. Yes. Abusive men. Men are a disease. Men are a pandemic that's been going on long before COVID. And it's just some of the stuff like I'll read. It's just like did you see that Chris Avalon DM?
No.
It's just awful.
Oh, good lord. But yeah, it's not just a reckoning for the games industry as well. It's been coming out, especially in the YouTube community recently. Over the last week, this has been the highlight of my quarantine so far. Although it feels wrong to say it's a highlight, but some of the biggest YouTubers on the platform are being deplatformed. So this is to do with the makeup community. I'm big into makeup. I love makeup. Makeup's great. And it's to do with Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, and it's just come out that Shane Dawson, well, I say come out, it's been on the platform for years and years and years. He has been posting not only racist content, but highly questionable paedophilic jokes, and I struggle to call them jokes, over the course of his 10-15 year long career on YouTube. And it's bad. And it's come out that he's like jokingly asked girls who are as young as 12 to like twerk and dance on camera for him and things. It's like a proper exploitation of the fan base sort of thing. It's not pleasant.
Yeah. And people talk about cancel culture, but to me, that's just a fancy term for repercussions for shitty things you did. But yeah, I don't really know too much about YouTube, but it's definitely spread beyond that. Let's
focus on our own community.
Yeah, because it does hit even closer to home this time, because one of the persons who was outed as being abusive to a number of people was Roberto Guedes, who is a writer for the Fallout Cascadia mod. Now, full disclosure, I've never talked to or met this particular person, but we have interviewed Flanarn, who is the lead dev for Cascadia, and thankfully they did go ahead and break all ties with this particular person going forward. But yeah, it's a problem even in the modding community, which you'd think would not suffer from this as much as game devs and devs who are constantly interacting in person. And the story takes a really bizarre turn in that he actually contacted a lot of big AAA devs, and almost everybody in the industry kind of knew him just based on these interactions via Twitter, and to the point where they assumed he was a writer for BioWare.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, people thought he worked at like BioWare because I guess if you repeat something enough, like people are going to believe it's true. And I don't want to bury the lead here that this guy was like awful to people,
Toxic.
but it's still kind of wild to me that this person is a modder
Yeah.
just based on the complete lack of connection like I personally have to video games or people in the dev industry.
And it's awful to
It's
think
like-
that it's awful to think that there's potentially someone that we've worked with personally on your mods or whatever. Like, I've been contracted by God knows who to do voice acting and stuff, and I don't know them personally. I don't know their beliefs. I don't know what they get up to in the background. It's terrifying to think that, yeah, you could be working for someone like that.
We probably have. I mean, I remember an experience when we were starting the podcast where like I would recruit some voice actors to maybe do some podcasts, and I thought, these like people, like they're good at public speaking, they're witty, they have, they're basically, you would think that they'd be
Personalities.
like ideal for this sort of thing. But as soon as, yeah, they have the personality, but as soon as like any kind of controversial subject came up and you would see where their opinions like lay on that particular issue, then you're like, oh my God, I did not know this person
that's
was
the
that
thing,
kind of
like-
person.
Yeah.
Or even just chatting on Discord. That has happened to me where I've been talking to a voice actor and whatever, like the subject might shift to like politics or something like that. And like, oh my God, you're a fucking Trumper. It's like, I did not know that. It's like, oh.
See, this is why I'm so glad that me and you, liberal hippies till we die.
Yeah, so it's just, there's things that you like learn about people that it's just like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, oh, it's good. Because like we have like mostly a professional relationship, even though it's like mods and it's kind of just like flying by the seat of your pants. You do have like a relationship with people that,
You've got a public presence as well, and you've got a power imbalance. Like, especially you as one of the leading modders, like one of the biggest downloaded mods for Skyrim and stuff like that. Like, there is potentially it gives you the power where you could potentially be in a position of power over people.
and that's something like, I'm not sure the particulars of the Fallout Cascadia issue, but this guy was like the lead writer, right? And he had like apparently a writer under him as well, so a female writer too. So that I don't know the particulars. I'm not saying anything like untoward happened, but it's just like when you're in a position of power, even in a modding situation, it can be dangerous if that person tries to take advantage of it, and you have to call that shit out if you see it, right? And if it happens, and it's just like, the problem oftentimes is that like people, because these games are so, because these jobs are so coveted, maybe not in the modding community, but in the professional like game dev community, that it's unfortunate that people often have to make the decision between their personal, their job, their career, and being harassed and abused every day, which sucks. It shouldn't be the way it is, but
It's something that's really upsetting because modding, I don't want to call it an industry, but it is a relatively new industry. The games industry is a relatively young industry in the grand scheme of things, and it's awful to see that those same systems of power, that same repetitive cycle, taking over and bleeding into new industries. Like, you hear about it in not just tech, in traditional workplaces. Like, academia at the minute is having a big old sexism row from what I've seen.
And like, part of me thinks that, okay, if we have remote work, we don't have to, like, if people are separated, it'll stop this like bullshit. Like, but it hasn't. I mean, the modding example is a perfect example. This guy had no physical contact with any of the people he abused, and he still managed to do it. So I'm not sure what the answer is. Maybe just end video games. Video games are a mistake.
Video games are a mistake. Chris Takahashi, 2020.
Yeah, pretty much. And one thing that is nice about being like a commercial failure in video games is that you don't have to worry about all the like extra bullshit. You're just like, oh, okay, I can just make games for myself and for the few people who like to play them, and it's kind of nice. You don't have to worry about like this presence of the looming fandom with their pitchforks and their torchforks, actually, copyright.
They're torchforks, of course.
Yes. Speaking of torchforks, there were a lot out for that the recent release of Last of Us 2, which broke a whole bunch of records.
So how far have you gotten in Last of Us 2? Have you actually finished
I have actually
it?
finished the games, which says a lot about the game.
You've actually finished a game? You've never finished a game since I've met
Yes,
you.
yes. So that speaks to how engaging, and it's a great game, I should say. So yeah, I mean, it's a game that I actually finished. So that says a lot about it already. You've gotten how far? Halfway
I
through?
have not been able to play Last of Us 2 because I do not own a PlayStation
Oh, we were
4
pretending
and I'm
though.
not in a financial position to be purchasing one. So instead, I have gone back to the days in my life.
Way to pull back the curtain, Alice.
Pulling back the curtain, there we go. But so I have been going back to what I used to do when I was 13, 14 and not able to afford or have a system that was able to play games. And I've been watching the cutscenes on YouTube to get the storyline so that I'm not fully left
Yeah,
out.
to be fair, you could get the gist of what's pretty much going on through cutscenes because there's so many of them. But
Well, I'm watching like a cutscene slash
yeah,
gameplay mashup,
yeah.
which is 11 hours long, not 10 hours long like I told you. It's
Well,
11 hours
that's
long.
the thing. That's half the
I
game.
just looked at the number at the front. I didn't see the 57 at the back. Yeah, I'm about halfway through the game.
But that's the thing. It's telling that the story portion, cutscene stuff, is 10 to 11 hours, and the whole game, playing it through normally, is 25 hours. So it's about half. Half the game is cutscenes and story-based gameplay. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good mix, I think.
But the thing is with Last of Us, it's not as though the storyline is regimented to being just in cutscenes. It's not like I don't want to use MGS4 as an example of that, but MGS4, the majority of the storyline was in cutscenes. It was widely complained at the time that MGS4 had too many cutscenes to gameplay, and that's because a lot of the story wasn't being delivered through the gameplay, whereas with Last of Us 2, from what I've seen at least,
Yeah.
and from the length of that video that I'm watching, which is a mash of gameplay and cutscene, the actual cutscenes in there's not that many.
Yeah, it's all streamlined very well. Like everything from the loading screens, which there are none, it's basically when you like slip through a crack, that's when you know like the game is loading a new section, or you like, you know, duck under something and then or open a door that's really hard to open. That's basically like a loading screen. So everything is like streamlined. Even the map, like when you look at the map, you don't go to a menu screen. Ellie basically just pulls out a map from her like backpack or whatever and unfurls it, and you look at it and it's just like everything's all like streamlined together so where it seems seamless.
I think that's something that they perfected during the Uncharted series, because in the Uncharted series, you're looking for a clue, you're flipping through your notebook.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every aspect of the game is so like put together well and from a technical perspective that you never really feel like you're being jumped from a cutscene to a gameplay. It's all smooth, and like everything about it is like from a technical level, it's pretty brilliant. But what did you think of the story so far and like the game overall? I guess.
I feel like it's done a double. I'm comparing it to MGS2 a lot, but that's because the MGS series is so well renowned for being a massive complex storytelling. And a lot of the advertising did focus on Ellie, but you weren't expecting the rug pull of, spoiler alert.
Yeah, heavy spoiler for Last of Us 2 if you haven't played the game. Just a note.
Spoiler alert, Joel getting killed within the first, what,
Yeah,
hour?
yeah.
You weren't
I mean,
expecting that.
I wasn't, but then I was as soon as we got introduced to Abby and her friends. Like, it was kind of obvious that based on the beginning, like they highlighted the fact that Joel killed all these people, right? And you kind of knew that it was gonna come around, like there was gonna be some kind of retribution. So as soon as we start that first like playthrough through the mountains as Abby, I was kind of thinking, okay, she's after Joel. They said they were after a man. She's after Joel. Let me just take this character and just jump her off a cliff. So my canon playthrough lasted about 30 minutes. Abby jumped off a cliff and died. No, that's not my canon playthrough. After playing through as Abby, I empathized with her a lot more. But at the time, she was just some person I've never heard of after Joel and trying to kill Joel. So I just jumped her off the cliff, which you can do apparently. Yeah,
And end the game.
And they lived happily ever after. But no, yeah, I mean, I really like Abby. I like the character. I like how well it was done. I like the theme of the game, the cycle of violence kind of stuff. I mean, it was a predictable story, but it was told well. Like, there are no new stories, really. So I don't really care that I can like sort of predict how it's going to end. I just want it to be able to be delivered well. And it had a lot of like,
Yeah.
it has a lot of good soft moments too to mix in with like all the awful, horrible violence, which,
And there is a lot of
yeah,
awful, horrible gore.
yeah. And it's intentional. I mean, I don't know if you needed to have that much. And it's sort of like, it's kind of beat into you like that, oh, you're killing people, like every conversation.
Yeah.
Like, when you're like trying to stealth through an area, the people are always like humanizing themselves. Hey, I have a
Having a
family.
conversation. Oh, I'm just 2 days from retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a little one at home, Please don't kill me. And it's just like,
I can't wait to give them their teddy bear that is in my hands right now. Oh no.
yeah, it's a little bit, it kind of beats you over the head with it a little bit to the point. And then they start screaming, and the screaming is really bad. But
I mean, yeah, we've discussed the balance of violence in video games numerous times on this podcast before, and I feel like there's less of a glamorization aspect of it,
yeah,
which is encouraging because so much of video game history has been bang bang shoot shoot, woo, I'm a hero. It's not. Although I think Spec Ops The Line did it better.
yeah. I mean,
Just saying.
the problem that inherently exists though in any game like this is that the actual gameplay is designed to be fun. So
Yeah.
like making the sort of Molotov cocktails, you get like the dopamine hit of making the cocktail. It's fun to toss. It has a fun explosion effect, and then the person starts screaming because they're on fire, and then it's like, feel bad for doing this when everything leading up to it was supposed to be fun, right? And so the game seems to kind of contradict itself at times in that it's sort of fighting against itself. Like,
But does it have that aspect of like, oh, you're fighting on adrenaline, oh, this is such a rush, da 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 da, oh no, you're actually killing people? Do you feel like, I don't know if you've ever been in an actual fight before where you've got a rush, but does it have that kind of element to it, might you say?
see, the difference is that, like, in a real sort of fight and stuff, there's like circumstances leading up to it. Like Ellie going after the people who killed Joel is sort of, there's like intent, there's a motive, there's an understanding in this the whole cycle of violence kind of thing. Ellie, like, and I don't know if you have to kill everybody, but the game kind of like forces you, unless you're like really good at stealth, to kill a lot of people. But Ellie being like a serial killer that kills like thousands of people it's a little bit different because again, it's like a gameplay thing, it's, they need to pad the game to make it like a certain number of hours. They need to make the game a certain length, and so that lends itself to having like these small moments where the violence is intentional and helpful for the narrative, but 90% of the game is where you're doing fun stuff with violence, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's not a good balance there, and that, I mean, that may be solvable by reducing the length of the game because the game also feels a little bit too long. But yeah, it's something that, like, I'm not sure if the game is self-aware enough at times, because it works really well as a criticism of violence in video games.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that was the intent all the way, like, to the point that they started like thinking about, okay, why are we giving the player all these dopamine hits for violence? Why are we encouraging the fun part of the video game? It doesn't like go into the gameplay part of it. It does it really well in terms of the narrative and some of the gameplay, like when you're forced to fight people that you care about and like knife them and stuff, and it's kind of like, it's sickening, like, and that's intentional and that's really well done.
Yeah.
But it doesn't apply to the overall general gameplay all that well.
I think it's just so much of a struggle with video games because primarily video games are a form of entertainment. Entertainment has literally the words entertain in the name, and at the end of the day, video games are going through all these cinematic experiences and trying to make you feel things. And I will say, I am a crier at video games. I cry all the time. I hate crying. And it's one of my favourite pastimes to do whilst I'm playing video games. But in terms of melding the demands of the gameplay to the storyline, it's very, very difficult for game developers to get that right balance.
Yeah.
Like, there's always a disconnect. Like, Bioshock Infinite bawled my eyes out twice playing that on my first and second playthrough. And still, it's still affected me emotionally, but there's still such a disconnect between the violence and the message of the game and the emotional effect of the storyline on you. So it's getting that balance. And I don't know, from what I've seen, from the gratuitous violence that there is, and I've played The Last of Us 1, I know what you mean when you say there's a real disconnect between you killing hundreds of NPCs and the tender emotional storyline and, ooh, isn't violence bad, sort of thing.
It's like, why would you do this? I have a family, but
It's very that. It's a really difficult balance to strike, because at the end of the day, you want your audience to be entertained, and the easiest way to entertain them is through like hits of dopamine, rewards, things like that, having fun explosions and things.
and basically dehumanizing NPCs. Like, you
Yeah.
don't care if you kill a Skyrim bandit. He's basically, never should have come here. That's what he says. He's not going to talk about his sick puppy at home or something.
No. I mean, some of them do. Some of them do.
And then did you feel bad about killing them?
No. Doesn't go far enough to humanize them, because they're all just randomly generated bandits anyway. It's just in certain locations they have their own text.
That's true. He doesn't even have a name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just says bandit over his head. That's another cool thing, because like if you take down somebody, like everybody has a name in Last of Us 2. Like, you don't think they have a name, but then somebody will shout out, it's like, "Oh my god, Gil! Somebody killed Gil!" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I killed Gil.
Oh shit, Gil, I'm so sorry.
I'm a monster." Yeah. Like, they actually refer to people by name, so it's kind of crazy just how in depth the game is in terms of doing that. Which, like I said, I'm a bit conflicted in how I feel about it, because I feel like, on the one hand, this is a really great way to criticize like violence in video games, but at the same time, they're also encouraging all the bad habits. And I don't know, maybe just violence isn't my thing. So while I feel like the game is amazing, I kind of want them to use their powers for good and make a game with this kind of like graphical fidelity and this kind of just emotional storytelling, but like, don't rely on violence. Like, just don't have it in the game. Like, you don't have to have it.
They're not gonna
Like,
do that. Sorry.
And see, that's why I kind of feel like they're not self-aware. If they're self-aware enough to say like, violence is bad, this is a game that criticizes violence in the gaming industry, now let's make a game that is not violent at all. Like, we made our point, and to emphasize our point, let's show you the way that it can be. But I do feel like you're right. I do feel like the next game is gonna have even more gore and just horrible shit. So
So what you're saying is that Last of Us 2 is not the Citizen Kane of gaming.
it's very good. It has some very nice emotional moments, but I feel like where the game stands out, if it is going to be a Citizen Kane of gaming, it's from a technical perspective. Like, I don't even feel like Ellie or Abby is the star of the game. I feel like the rope is. the rope is the real star.
That beautiful swinging rope.
Oh my god. And the rope and the shirt. The shirt is amazing, where you take off the shirt and there's no clipping. It just comes right off.
That is something truly beautiful.
Yeah, it's like black magic. And I feel like stuff like that is what makes like Last of Us kind of like, granted, I haven't played a lot of AAA games in a while, but I mean, I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That's a recent game, and there was nothing in that made me think, "Oh my god."
It's not got
like,
the level of care to it, almost.
This rope is the Citizen Kane of gaming.
It's the Orson
There's
Welles
nothing about
of The Last of Us 2.
The rope is named Rosebud, in case you didn't know. It's the rope, everything about the rope is great.
Like, technically speaking, it's a beautiful game.
It has give, it wraps around things, you could lasso things, you could wrap it around poles,
It's a flexible
it
actor.
has weight.
It's got
to
range.
It. Yeah. You could do anything. That's what they should do. The next game should be about the rope and the rope only. No violence, just rope mechanics all day. You play as a rope and you gotta rope things.
You just get roped into things.
Yes.
I thought it was funny.
Get on it, Naughty Dog. Roped.
Just getting roped into this.
Yes.
Or maybe, what if, right?
End of your rope.
You're a rope and you are being used by players, and as a rope, you've got to use what is within your physical capabilities to ensure that the player does not enact violence.
Ah.
Like, worst day ever for whoever the NPC is. This rope is not letting you strangle people.
Yeah. It's not letting you learn the ropes.
So you should scrap your current game project and get on that.
Yes. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of my game, which has no violence anyway, and just turn it into a game about ropes.
Sounds perfect. I'm down with it.
Yes.
I'll voice the
Just
rope's
enough rope.
thoughts.
Yeah, get on that now. Just make rope sounds. Psh, psh. Yeah. But Last of Us 2, I recommend everybody play it. It's a great game. Or just watch it on YouTube if you don't want to, like... Because I think that would be more palatable. If I watched it as a 10-episode TV show, it would be more palatable because there's less of that just constant dopamine game stuff.
You're a spectator rather than enacting violence.
I could get angry at the other person for killing poor Gil.
Yeah.
The furniture salesman turned into the WLF person. Who knows?
Alex, Jason, I don't know.
Bob, Martha.
They've probably run down just like top 100 baby names list and got a voice and got all the voice actors to read out that list.
Yeah.
No, Khaleesi.
Yeah, when they get to like Daenerys and they get to all the Tyrion and all these names like that, then you know that they're running out of ideas. Please don't kill Tyrion in game.
Running out of ideas for names.
I think if I try and play the game again, I'm gonna try and do it without killing, because I think you can technically just sneak to the end and not kill anybody.
There's probably an achievement for it.
Yeah, but it's really hard if you suck at video games.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah, I was never able to complete Metal Gear Solid without alerting someone.
Yeah, there's also a lot of good representation in the game. There is a trans character. There is lesbian characters.
Bisexual.
Yeah, bisexual.
Bisexual who isn't automatically derided as being a slut. That's always nice, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is that it doesn't hurt the story that you're trying to tell, which goes contrary to what people on the internet kind of think, is that...
It's not front and center. It's just a part of the story.
Yeah, it can be front and center. To me, it's just a matter of telling a story well.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's a problem of putting something out front and center or putting something in the background or whatever. You can do both. It's just... if you tell a story well, you're not forcing anything. Yeah. So
well, it's what we talked about last week. It's, for the most part, it seems very well researched. It seems like it's a part of their characters, but it's not their defining characteristic. It's exactly what we talked about last week.
Yeah.
At least from what I've seen of Ellie's relationships throughout the game.
Yeah. I did read one criticism of the fact that... Lev didn't get to tell his own story. It was told through his sister, told through a cis person. And the other criticism that... and this was written by a trans writer, and they said that it was kind of hurtful to see that kind of pain still existed for trans people, in that, like, coming out is still something that's looked down upon and comes with consequences, even in the post-apocalyptic world. Like... for them, there's never going to be a return to normalcy for marginalized people. But that being said, Lev was part of a cult, so it might not, he might be able to find life in the future. So
yeah, I saw a lot of criticism about how Lev was also dead named a lot within the game. Yeah, I think just because dead naming is a very prevalent issue in people who are beginning and continuing their transition, especially amongst families and stuff like that, it can be very raw. But it's... when you're not expecting that going into something, I can imagine that it would be quite upsetting for people who are trans who do have to face that in their everyday life. So I can understand why some writers have criticised just the sheer use of dead naming within The Last of Us. But it's the same, well, not the same issue, but it's a similar issue to the gratuitous violence and things like that. It's not advocating for doing those sorts of hurtful practices.
You're talking about in the game, not
Yeah.
on Twitter or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, so I can understand why people who are playing the game who are of a trans background, they can find it hurtful and they can find it upsetting when it's something that they have to face in their everyday life. So I can understand why some of them are criticising.
Yeah, in the context of the game, it was done to reveal information to the player, I guess. And again, this is like not Lev not having his own agency, and I mean other people are outing him more or less. Like, so I mean that goes to that again. I mean, did they consult a trans person like when writing this? Like, is this something we want to do? Is there a way to have it more tastefully done? I don't know.
Well, I believe he was voiced by an openly trans actor.
Yeah, trans actor.
That's something. That's better than Hollywood.
I mean, yeah, narratively speaking, if you make a game with evil people, they're going to do evil things and say evil things.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, the only real solution is to not make that kind of game. That's different. I mean, I was thinking about just people on Twitter dead naming or misgendering. Those people are just awful. So those people are just cruel. So yeah.
The actual worst.
Like I said, video games are mistakes. So.
Yeah, especially when this is the thing that I don't understand. So, Last of Us 2 is an 18 plus game, isn't it?
Probably it should be.
No? Yeah, should be. So why are these supposedly 18 plus people attacking the voice actress as if they're the character? I thought people were better than this, because this is something that came out over the weekend. Laura Bailey, the voice actress for Abby, she posted a load of screenshots, and she'd very kindly erased the names and identity to not start a witch hunt on these people, of just awful stuff and threats that she'd gotten to herself and her family. She's a new mother as well. I think she's had a child within the last year and stuff, and she's been having so many threatening comments, threatening herself, threatening her livelihood, threatening her husband and her child, from people who are angry that her character did something that they didn't agree with.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not. Like, gamers are like scum. They're like the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
After 2016, nothing surprises me. When you have half of our country, when you have people who are debating the use of masks, they've turned it into a political talking point. I mean, it boggles the mind that someone would think that a person playing a role is the same as that person, or that, it boggles the mind, but at the same time, like, we've seen human stupidity on display for the past few years, the past 4 years, or even longer than that, going back since humans first discovered fire. I mean, we've seen how stupid like the human race can be. So it surprises me, at the same time it doesn't.
I understand what you mean. Like, you're not shocked, disappointed, but not surprised.
Yeah, like people, gamers in particular.
I think there's definitely a culture that is not the most pleasant. It's got a competitive aspect to it at the end of the day, as gaming, like, but because gaming does have that competitive aspect to it, and because it's always been seen very much as a boys' club.
Yeah, and I also wonder sometimes if this particular group feels sort of empowered because they've always been listened to in games. They're always the protagonist. They're the hero of Kvatch.
My, oh my, oh my, it's the grand champion. I can't believe it's you.
And so the fact that it attracts a certain type of experience makes it more difficult for games to kind of go beyond those boundaries, because there's a certain expectation from the customer.
I mean, I can very much understand using video games as like wish fulfillment and power fantasies and things like that. Like, it's something I do. It's the reason why I play games, because I don't want to be myself a lot of the time. It's the reason I do voice acting as well. It's because I don't want to be myself for a little bit, because I hate myself. But no, so it's I can understand why gaming as a hobby and an activity does attract people who do want to feel powerful, who may feel disempowered in their everyday lives. And so when you have that fantasy stripped away from you, or you see a character, because at the end of the day, when you're playing a video game, you're putting yourself in a character's shoes. You're not detached from the action. The whole point of a video game is to be active in a world and making a difference within a world. So you can get very emotionally invested in it. And people were very emotionally invested in the character of Joel, for example. And so I can understand feeling upset that this character's dead and hating the character who did that. What I can't understand is not taking 2 steps back, realising you are not Joel or Ellie, Abby is not Laura Bailey, sort of thing. But people are reactive. Video games are a very reactive medium. You're instant input. And so people don't take the time to step back and think about their actions. And so they do go on these tirades in the heat of the moment. Video games don't encourage introspection. Well, generally speaking, video games haven't encouraged introspection, stepping back, thinking things through. And I think that might be an aspect of it.
Yeah, and then I do feel like that's something that The Last of Us 2 does well in terms of getting you to empathize with Abby and understand who she is and like humanize her. And through the second half of the game where you play as her, I mean, that it really does a good job of just flipping Abby into the protagonist and Ellie into the villain. It's kind of like a Breaking Bad situation that way, and it does a really good job of like flipping those roles, and that makes it even more like bizarre that people would be hating on Abby after you played as her, after you walked a mile in her shoes. I mean, maybe these comments came before the second half of the game, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's bizarre. People are weird. They're fucking stupid. No other way to put it.
Well, MGS2 did that twist first, and I can remember the outcry on MGS2 because people thought, and all the publishing material said, you will be playing as Snake, just as the publishing material for Last of Us 2 said you will be playing as Ellie. They didn't really hint towards using Abby as a playable character. And so people were up in outcry about playing Raiden, this ultra feminine anime boy man thing who wasn't Snake. People were up in arms about it.
Yeah.
And that twist has been done before. But the thing is, I think that people who were upset and angry at Joel's death, those people who I mentioned probably don't take a step back and probably don't introspect and detach themselves from the story before spewing vitriol online. I don't think they got to the halfway point before they started spewing hate, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe they just jumped off a cliff like I did.
And there we go, that's the end.
And Joel and Ellie lived happily ever after. I mean, you could do that.
The end.
That is the nice thing about video games, is you have some measure of control that way. But yeah, I think everybody should play it. I think everybody should just chill out. It's a video game.
Detach.
Yeah, it's I mean, in general, like, I think a lot of these criticisms aren't made in good faith. Like when they talk about like Abby's size and like her muscular nature. I mean, just look at it as a metaphor for her rage and her like need for revenge. It doesn't have to. I mean, it's realistic anyway. They have livestock and they have weights in the fucking Seahawks Stadium. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, the way I look at it, it's just narrative license, you know?
Yeah. Like, nobody complains about ultra buff guys in the apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's because she's not aesthetically buff. You know? Like, bikini model buff.
I think it's just because women aren't encouraged to be buff.
Yeah.
I mean, women aren't encouraged to have, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger muscles, I guess, is basically. So it's a societal thing, more or less. I don't know. Like, they don't care if it's unrealistic, if, like, 1,000 Nexus mods have, like, bikini armor waifu
Tits to chin.
followers. So, but they don't like Abby. But, yeah, I don't know.
I think she's a pretty cool character. I'm enjoying her. And very well voiced. Well done, Laura Bailey. And well done, Ashley Johnson, for doing such a phenomenal role as Ellie as well. Well done, guys.
And well done, guy who played Gil. who made me emotionally attached to his death after I killed him in the game.
And well done to the probably team of developers who worked on that rope for 18-hour days.
Oh yeah, crunch and all that. Yeah, those. Yeah, you could. I mean, again, like that's where I sort of feel conflicted. Like this is really cool. These rope physics are really cool. Man, somebody was probably worked to death
Yeah.
to make this
But
happen.
it's so good.
Yeah, I know. There are some moments that are just like the moment where Ellie goes through the forest and the scars where she first encounters the scars. That was freaking amazing. Where they're just like communicating via whistles, and it's an absolutely terrifying scene, but
Haunting.
it's amazing. It's so well done. Like the whistles, they actually, like I read online that they actually developed a communication system for like the scars and how they whistle to each other to communicate that somebody's down. So there's a unique whistle if somebody's injured. There's a unique whistle when they're saying somebody's over here. So if you actually like pay attention to the whistles, you can actually learn the scars like sort of combat language. It's pretty crazy. But like
It's
when
like
you first
Tolkien with his own languages.
yeah, but when you first play that scene, it's so well done. It's like terrifying because like you're in this forest and the brush is so thick and you can't really see anything, but you hear these whistles in the background and you're not exactly sure where they're coming from. So it is so well done. But then the gameplay aspect is I just went back and just scoped them and just yeah, the gameplay wasn't
Just took them all down.
yeah, as it didn't match the feeling I was getting playing it because like
Yeah.
I could just basically kite them and cheat using like standard, video game mechanics. But yeah. The scene itself was amazing. But yeah, that's goes back to like the whole thing with video games and with storytelling. They're
The
at odds with each
dissonance.
other.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Like you're telling this great story and this if the player plays it a certain way, it makes perfect narrative sense. But if the player kind of jumps around and acts like it's an MMO and starts like doing stupid
You
shit,
ruin it.
yeah, you kind of ruin the narrative there. So
Fucking
and
players.
that's me jumping around kiting people and then doing stupid shit.
But then you also walk in video games for immersion. So,
No, but then I don't rely on
swings and
violence.
roundabouts. Depends on the genre.
Yeah, but see, I don't like violence, so I try to avoid it as much as
Yeah.
possible. But yeah. Anyways,
Pacifist run all the way.
we're at like 50 minutes. Do we want to mention the Fallout TV show? Bethesda announced the Fallout TV show.
But yeah, Bethesda announced Fallout TV show, and we are using this podcast to officially launch the official petition to have Chris Takahashi play Takahashi, the robot noodle robot.
Just put me
There
in
we
the
go.
fucking robot suit. I've made ramen before. I can make shitty robot ramen. Yeah, just put me
I
in
mean,
the
it
suit.
probably won't even be real ramen because you're going to be sat on set for like 12 hours in that robot suit.
That's true. I'll probably just die.
So it'll
in
be
there.
fake
Nobody will know the
ramen.
difference.
It's okay. I think they should have you play Takahashi the robot because I can remember when I was watching release footage, early release footage of Fallout 4, and I saw Takahashi, and I sent you a screenshot, and I was like, "Chris, did they put you in the game?" And you were like, "No, it's the third most common Japanese last name, Alice."
Yes, yes.
So.
I did
But
mention it
it's
to
you.
Bethesda. I did mention it to Bethesda. I was like, you should put me in the game. You should have me play as Takahashi. No, they're just like laughing. They're saying, "Oh, we'll have you play everybody. We'll have you'll be like Eddie Murphy."
I would pay for that mod. Just saying.
I'll just be like every character. But it's made by the Westworld people. So I don't know.
That's going to be exciting.
I have mixed feelings about it because Fallout does a very good job. We talk about games being at odds with each other, or a game being at odds with itself. Like Fallout it strikes a perfect balance with the game play and the world in that it's campy and serious and post-apocalyptic but 1950s and it all works. I don't know if that campy aspect will play well on a TV show. I mean, especially a Westworld type TV show, which is super serious, right? How are they gonna do like all the goofy campy shit
How's it going to translate?
in the TV format? Yeah, how is that gonna translate?
Yeah.
That's the stuff I worry about. But like in a game it works. It can jump from like one beat to another very easily. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I want to be optimistic about it, but the thing is with video game to screen adaptations, it's always been pretty iffy, to say the least. So I'm not that optimistic, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah, the people who made or who made Westworld, like, they're
They're a good
professionals.
team.
Yeah, it's it has good names behind it, but it's just
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what sort of tone they're gonna go for. I mean, are they going? Because it's Fallout, so there's a lot of camp in it. So are they gonna be able to translate that to the screen? But we'll see. I mean, I'm sure they're aware of it. I'm sure they're like fans and played the game. Do you think it's gonna be based on a new location, or if it's gonna like take after
New
one of the previous
location.
games?
Give them a whole world to run wild in instead of working around previous lore and stuff.
Yeah.
Give them a whole world. Give them a whole new location.
Yeah.
Don't try and intertwine it with the story of the video games, because the story of the video games has been presented.
Fallout Nottingham.
Yes. Wait, isn't the entirety of England meant to be ghouls anyway?
I don't know. There you go. Cast us as ghouls.
I mean,
Are there
I'd
any
make a fantastic
Takahashis in
ghoul.
Nottingham? That's the thing. That's the question you should be asking.
Not that I'm aware of, but probably, because as you said, it's the third most common Japanese surname.
So yeah, look for me in the credits. I'm gonna find out a lot more, I'm sure, about the TV show in the future. But that won't be for a while. Join us next time when we'll talk about hopefully something that isn't the end of the world.
And dreary.
All right.
Bye!